The stars hung like tiny diamonds against the blackness of space. Daniel Harris moved his face closer to the thick glass window of Space Station Liberty. His breath made a small fog patch on the cold surface. After 15 years working in space, the view still filled him with wonder. "Sir, you need to see this," called Alan Wright, his voice shaking slightly. "Our radar just picked up something big and it's not one of ours." Daniel turned from the window. As head scientist of Liberty Station, anything unusual came to him first. He hurried across the room to the main control panel where Alan pointed at the screen. A large blip moved slowly toward their station. "Have you called the captain?" Daniel asked, his heart beating faster. "Yes, sir. Captain Judy Miller is on her way." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Miller walked in with quick, sure steps. Her gray eyes showed no fear, but Daniel noticed how tightly she gripped her tablet. "Report," she said simply. Alan pointed again at the screen. "Unknown object about half the size of our station. It's moving in a controlled path directly toward us, not a meteor or space junk." "Have they made contact?" the captain asked. "No, sir," Alan replied. "Wait." He pressed his hand to his earpiece. "Communications reports they're receiving a signal." Captain Miller straightened her blue uniform jacket. "Put it through." The main screen flickered. At first there was only static, then shapes began to form. Daniel felt his mouth drop open. On the screen was a face, but not a human face. The being had smooth blue-green skin that seemed to shine like metal in some places. Its eyes were 3 times larger than human eyes, black as space itself with tiny specks of light that looked like stars. It had no nose, just 2 small slits, and its mouth was a thin line that didn't move when sounds came through their speakers. "People of Earth." The translation program converted the strange musical sounds into English. "We come in peace. We are the Zith. We request permission to meet." Captain Miller took only a moment to recover. "This is Captain Judy Miller of Earth, Space Station Liberty. We welcome peaceful contact. Please hold position while we contact our leaders." The next 6 hours were the busiest of Daniel's life. Earth governments argued and discussed while the alien ship waited patiently. Finally, permission came. The aliens could dock at Liberty for first contact. "They're approaching the docking bay," reported Susan Lee, the station's security chief. Her hand rested near her weapon, though Earth leaders had stressed peaceful intentions. "Remember," Captain Miller told the welcoming group, "be respectful but careful. This is the most important moment in human history." The docking bay doors opened. Daniel held his breath as 3 tall figures stepped through. They moved with strange grace as if they weighed nothing. Up close, their skin was even more beautiful, shifting colors like oil on water. The tallest one stepped forward. "I am Nexor, speaker for the Zith Council," it said through a small device hanging around its neck. "We thank you for your welcome." Captain Miller bowed slightly. "I am Captain Miller. This is Daniel Harris, our head scientist, and Susan Lee, our security chief. Welcome to Liberty Station." Nexor's star-filled eyes blinked slowly. "We have watched your people for many years. Your television signals, your radio broadcasts, your internet communications, they travel through space. We have been studying them." Daniel found his voice. "You've been watching our shows and listening to our music?" "Yes," said Nexor. "That is how we learned your languages and customs. That is how we knew we needed to find you." "Needed to find us?" Susan asked, her voice careful. "Why?" Nexor made a gesture with long, 6-fingered hands. The other 2 aliens stepped forward, opening containers they carried. Inside were what looked like books and small devices Daniel didn't recognize. "To trade," said Nexor. "We have technology and knowledge to share. But mostly, we came because of what you humans create. Something more valuable than all the rare metals in the galaxy." Over the next 3 days, the station buzzed with activity. More aliens arrived and government representatives came up from Earth. Daniel spent hours every day with the aliens, learning about their world and sharing information about humans. "Your people are spread across many star systems," Daniel said. During one meeting, looking at star maps Nexor had shown him, "Your civilization must be thousands of years ahead of ours." "In some ways," Nexor agreed. "Our ships can travel faster than light. We have cured most diseases. We can build cities in days that last for centuries." "Then what could you possibly want from us?" Daniel asked. "We must seem so primitive to you." Nexor's color shifted to a deeper blue. "Not primitive. Unique. All advanced species in our alliance have lost something as they grew more technological, but humans still have it in abundance." "What is it?" Daniel leaned forward, curious. "You will understand soon," Nexor said. "First, there is something you should know. We did not come alone to your solar system." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean?" Before Nexor could answer, the station's alarm system blared to life. Red lights flashed in the meeting room. Daniel's communicator buzzed, urgently. "Harris, get to the command center now." Captain Miller's voice was tight with stress. "What's happening?" Daniel asked, already standing. "Multiple ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system," she said. "Big ones. And they're not responding to communication attempts." Nexor's skin turned almost white. "They have found us. We hoped to have more time." "Who?" Daniel demanded as they hurried through the corridors. "Who found us?" "The harvesters," Nexor said grimly. "They take what others create. They consume it and leave nothing behind. They have destroyed many worlds before yours." They reached the command center where screens showed 12 massive ships, each 10 times the size of the Zith vessels. They moved in perfect formation toward Earth. "What do they want?" Captain Miller asked Nexor directly. "They want what makes humans special," Nexor replied. "They want what we came to trade for, but they will take it by force, destroying your people in the process." "And what exactly is this thing we have?" Daniel asked, fear mixing with confusion. Nexor's eyes seemed to grow even darker. "Your stories, your music, your art, your ability to imagine and create. In the galaxy, there is no treasure more precious than human creativity. And now the greatest threat to that treasure has arrived." As they watched the ships draw closer, Daniel realized that humanity's greatest gift might also be the reason for its destruction. The small ship Earth Hope raced through space. It had been 2 weeks since the emergency escape from Space Station Liberty. When the harvester ships arrived, Earth's leaders made a quick decision. They would split up the Zith visitors and key human personnel into several ships and send them in different directions. This way, if the harvesters caught one ship, they wouldn't get everyone. Jack Wilson sat at the pilot controls, his eyes red from lack of sleep. As the best pilot in Earth's space program, he had been chosen for this important mission. Next to him sat Nexor, the Zith leader who had first made contact with humans. "They're still following us," Jack said, looking at the radar screen. The red dot that represented the harvester ship was getting closer. "They're faster than we are." Nexor's color changed to a worried purple. "We must reach the safe point before they catch us. If we can get past the outer planets, my people can meet us with better ships." In the small crew area behind them, 4 other humans worked at different stations. Maria Lopez, the ship's engineer, checked the engine readings with a worried look. Ben Taylor watched communications while Kelly Wright and Peter Davis studied data about the harvesters that Nexor had shared. "I still don't understand why they want us so badly," Kelly said, pushing her glasses up her nose. "What's so special about human creativity?" Nexor turned in his seat. His star-filled eyes seemed sad. "Most advanced species in the galaxy lost something important as they grew more technological. When a civilization focuses only on science and facts, the part of the brain that creates stories and art becomes smaller over many generations." "You mean your people can't make up stories?" Peter asked, looking up from his tablet. "We can understand them," Nexor said. "We can enjoy them, but we cannot create new ones. It has been thousands of years since any Zith created an original story or song. That's why you've been collecting our movies and books," Ben realized. "You can't make your own anymore." Nexor nodded. "Yes, we trade fairly for your stories. But the harvesters..." His color darkened. They take by force. They capture beings who can create and drain their minds, stealing every story and idea. Most victims survive, but they can never create anything new again. The humans fell silent, thinking about how terrible that would be. But why is creativity so important to advanced aliens? Jack asked, keeping his eyes on the controls. Surely technology is more valuable in space. Technology keeps bodies alive, Nexor said simply. Stories keep souls alive. The ship suddenly shook violently. Maria's fingers flew over her control panel. They're shooting at us, she shouted. Some kind of energy beam just missed us. Jack pushed the ship's engines harder. We can't outrun them much longer. Any ideas? Kelly looked up from her screen. What if we hide? Saturn's rings have lots of ice and rocks. We could lose them there. Good thinking, Jack said, already changing their course. Nexor, will that work? It might give us time, the alien agreed. But they will search thoroughly. The Earth Hope changed direction, heading toward the giant ringed planet. As they got closer, the rings became a massive field of ice chunks and dust, stretching out like a beautiful but dangerous road. Everyone hold on, Jack called as he guided the ship into the thinnest part of the rings. This will be bumpy. The ship shuddered as small ice pieces hit the hull. Jack's hands moved quickly over the controls, dodging the bigger chunks that could damage them. Behind them, the harvester ship paused at the edge of the rings. They're not following us in, Ben reported, watching the radar. Maybe their ship is too big for the rings. They'll send smaller ships, Nexor warned. We should use this time wisely. Maria stood up. I have an idea. If we can't outrun them, maybe we can trick them. Everyone looked at her as she explained. Her plan. They would use parts of their ship to build a small drone that looked like an escape pod on radar. They would send it out of the rings in one direction while they went another way. Will that work? Peter asked Nexor. The harvesters are very logical, Nexor said. They might believe we would try to escape in a smaller, faster pod. It could work. For the next hour, Maria and Peter worked on building the drone while the others kept watch. When it was ready, Jack positioned their ship near the edge of Saturn's rings. Launching drone now, Maria said, pressing a button. On the radar, they watched the small blip move away from them, heading toward Jupiter. Now we wait, Jack said. They didn't wait long. 3 small harvester ships appeared at the edge of the rings and immediately moved to follow the drone. It worked, Kelly said, smiling for the first time in days. Don't celebrate yet, Jack warned. The mothership is still out there. He carefully guided their ship out of the rings on the opposite side, keeping Saturn between them and where they thought the main harvester ship would be. As they cleared the rings, Nexor pointed to a spot of empty space. Head there. My people will meet us at those coordinates. Jack set the course. For 2 hours, they traveled in tense silence, expecting the harvesters to appear at any moment. Then Ben saw something on his screen. A ship is approaching. Is it your people, Nexor? The alien's skin turned bright blue with relief. Yes, that is a Zith rescue vessel. The ship that appeared was beautiful, shaped like a silver leaf and moving smoothly through space. It was much bigger than Earth Hope, but smaller than the harvester ships. They're sending a message, Ben said. Prepare for quick transfer. Harvester, main ship has detected your location. We need to hurry, Nexor said, standing. Gather only what is most important. The humans quickly collected their personal items and the data they had been studying. The Zith ship came alongside them, extending a glowing bridge between the 2 vessels. Go now, Jack said, still at the controls. I'll set the autopilot and be right behind you. One by one, they crossed over to the Zith ship. Nexor waited until all the humans had crossed before turning to Jack. The stories of your courage will be remembered, he said solemnly. Jack smiled. Well, at least you'll have to get someone else to tell those stories since you can't make them up yourself. Nexor made a sound that might have been a laugh. Come, we must hurry. As they stepped onto the Zith ship, the bridge retracted behind them. Through a window, they watched Earth Hope move away, continuing on its previous course. Where are we going now? Maria asked, looking around at the strange but beautiful interior of the alien ship. "To meet the others who escaped," Nexor said. "We must gather all humans who know the truth and prepare for what comes next." "Which is what?" Kelly asked. Nexor's eyes seemed to hold the light of distant stars. "Teaching you how to use your greatest treasure to save yourselves, and perhaps the entire galaxy." The Zith ship accelerated smoothly, disappearing into the darkness of space just as the massive harvester vessel arrived where they had been moments before. 1 month had passed since the escape from Saturn. The Zith ship had taken Jack, Maria, Kelly, Ben, Peter, and Nexor to a hidden base on one of Jupiter's small moons. There, they found other humans and Zith who had escaped from Earth and space, Station Liberty. The base was built inside the moon with tunnels and rooms carved from the rock. It was simple but had everything they needed: sleeping areas, food, water, and meeting rooms. About 50 humans and 20 Zith lived there now. "Earth is in big trouble," said General Laura Adams at the morning meeting. She was the highest-ranking military officer who had escaped. On a large screen behind her, pictures showed harvester ships hovering over major cities on Earth. "They've set up what they call collection centers in 15 cities. People go in normal and come out. Changed." "Changed? How?" asked Ben, who sat with the crew of Earth Hope at one of the tables. Dr. Paul Green, a brain scientist who had studied the few humans who had escaped from collection centers, stood up. "The harvesters don't hurt people physically, but they take something important from their minds, the ability to imagine and create. People who come out can still think and work, but they can't make up stories, create art, or even dream at night. It's like they become robots," added Maria sadly. "My sister sent a message before communication was cut off. She said our cousin went into a collection center and came out knowing who everyone was, but he didn't care about anything. He couldn't even understand why people were upset." Nexor stepped forward, his skin a deep purple color of sadness. "This is how it begins. The harvesters take creativity from the smartest and most creative humans first. Then they will move to the rest of the population." "Why don't they just take our books and movies?" Kelly asked. "Why do they need to take it from people's minds?" "Because they don't just want the stories we have already made," Jack said, understanding now. "They want our ability to make new ones." "Exactly," Nexor nodded. "Your books and movies are valuable, but the human mind that can create endless new stories is priceless to them." General Adams pointed to another screen showing a map of Earth, with red dots marking the collection centers. "We need a plan to stop them. Direct attacks won't work. Their ships have shields our weapons can't penetrate." The room fell silent as everyone tried to think of solutions. Then Peter, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "If what they want is our creativity, maybe that's how we fight them." All eyes turned to him. "What do you mean?" the general asked. Peter stood up. "Nexor said the harvesters think very logically, right? They don't understand creativity themselves. They just want to take it. What if we use that against them?" "I'm listening," General Adams said. "What if we create stories they can't process?" Peter suggested. "Stories that don't make sense to their logical minds. Stories with no endings or with many possible endings. Stories that contradict themselves." Dr. Green's eyes widened. "Like a computer virus, but for minds. If their systems are designed to extract normal stories with beginnings, middles, and ends, strange stories might confuse their technology." Nexor's skin turned a bright yellow color that they had learned meant excitement. "This could work. The harvesters' extraction machines are built to process normal narrative structures. If humans could create stories that don't follow normal patterns, we could overload their systems," Maria finished, getting excited too. Jack nodded slowly. "So instead of running and hiding, we fight back with what makes us human, our imagination." "But how do we get these special stories to Earth?" Kelly asked. "And how do we teach people to think this way before the harvesters get to them?" "General." Adams looked at the Zith representatives. "Can your people help us send messages to Earth?" The tallest Zith stepped forward. His name was Zenith, and he was an expert in communication technology. "We have ways to send signals the harvesters cannot easily detect. We call it shadow speaking. sending messages through the spaces between normal communication channels, like whispering between the words, Ben said, nodding. Exactly, Zenith replied. We can send your message to Earth, but it must be short and simple so many humans can understand it quickly. For the rest of the day, the humans and Zith worked together to create a plan. The humans would write special virus stories designed to confuse harvester machines. The Zith would help send these stories and simple instructions to Earth using their shadow-speaking technology. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He walked through the quiet base until he found Nexor sitting alone in the meeting room, looking at star maps. Do you think this will work? Jack asked, sitting down beside the alien. Nexor's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue color. I believe it can. Your species has something we lost long ago, the ability to think in ways that are not logical, but are still meaningful. But if it does work and we defeat the harvesters, what happens then? Jack asked. Will your people still want our stories? Yes, Nexor said honestly, but we will continue to trade fairly, as we planned before the harvesters came. Many species in the galaxy would give their most precious resources for what humans create without even thinking about it. Jack smiled slightly. It's strange to think that all the movies and books we make just for fun could be so important to advanced aliens. Stories are not just fun, Nexor said, his voice serious. They are how minds make sense of the universe. Without them, we have facts but no meaning. That is why the harvesters became so desperate. They realized too late what they had lost. The next morning, everyone gathered again. The humans had worked through the night, creating examples of virus stories and simple instructions for how to think in ways the harvesters couldn't process. Dr. Green explained how it would work. We're telling people to create stories with no ending, or with multiple contradictory endings. To imagine circles of time where the beginning is also the end. To create characters who are both alive and dead at the same time. These concepts confuse harvester machines because they can only think in straight lines. Zenith and his team had prepared their communication equipment. We are ready to send the message, he announced. General Adams looked around the room at the humans and Zith working together. This is humanity's best hope, let's do it. The message was sent, traveling secretly through space to reach Earth. Now all they could do was wait and hope that humans on Earth would understand and use their imagination to fight back. What do we do while we wait? Maria asked. We prepare, General Adams said firmly. Because if this works, the harvesters won't just give up. They'll come looking for who caused the problem. Jack looked at Nexor. And they'll probably come here first. Nexor's skin turned a determined orange color. Then we must be ready to show them the power of human creativity, and what happens when they try to steal it. 2 weeks had passed since they sent the message to Earth. Everyone at the moon base was on edge, waiting for news. They had no way of knowing if their plan worked or if the harvesters had found their message and stopped it. Jack stood with Maria in the control room, watching the screens that showed views of space around Jupiter. They took turns keeping watch, looking for any sign of harvester ships. Do you think anyone on Earth got our message? Maria asked, rubbing her tired eyes. Jack shrugged. I hope so. If enough people learn to create those special virus stories, maybe the harvesters will leave. The door opened and Kelly ran in, looking excited. We got something. A message from Earth made it through. They hurried to the main meeting room, where everyone was gathering. General Adams stood next to a screen with Nexor and Zenith beside her. We've received a coded message from our people on Earth, she announced as the room filled. It appears our plan is working. When people who think in paradoxes go into collection centers, the harvester machines malfunction. Cheers filled the room. Dr. Green stepped forward to explain more. According to the message, people have been teaching each other how to create and think in paradoxes. When the harvesters try to take these thoughts, their machines can't process them. It's like trying to divide by zero for a computer. How many collection centers have been affected? Ben asked. 7 so far, General. Adams replied. Some have shut down completely. Others are still working but processing fewer people. Nexor's skin turned a bright yellow of excitement. This is better than we hoped. The harvesters don't understand what's happening. Their machines are designed to extract normal stories with clear beginnings and endings. When they encounter stories that loop back on themselves or have multiple contradictory endings, the machines cannot categorize them. So we're winning? Peter asked hopefully. Not yet, Zenith cautioned, his color shifting to a warning orange. Our scouts report that the harvesters have realized something is wrong. They're sending their main ship to Earth, the one they call the Thought Collector. It has more advanced technology. The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. How much time do we have? Jack asked. 3 days at most, Zenith answered. Once the Thought Collector arrives, it will be able to overcome our strategy. General Adams looked around the room. Then we need a new plan. Any ideas? What if we go to them instead of waiting here? Jack suggested. Everyone looked at him in surprise. If they're sending their main ship, that means their leadership will be there. We could take our best virus stories directly to them. That would be extremely dangerous, Nexor warned. You would be going right into the center of their power. But it might work, Dr. Green said slowly. If we could get our strongest paradoxes into their main system, it would be like giving a computer a megavirus instead of just a regular one, Maria added, warming to the idea. General Adams nodded. It's risky, but it might be our only chance. We need volunteers for this mission. Jack, Maria, Kelly, Ben, and Peter all stepped forward immediately. Others joined them until there were 15 humans and 5 Zith ready to go. We'll take our fastest ship, Xena said. But how will we get onto the Thought Collector? Their security will be extremely strong. I think I know how, said Peter, who had been quiet until now. The harvesters want human creativity, right? What if we offer them exactly what they want, the most creative humans as a gift? A Trojan horse, Ben nodded, understanding. We pretend to surrender some humans with amazing creative abilities. And once we're inside, Jack continued, we release our strongest paradox stories directly into their main system. Over the next 2 days, everyone worked frantically to prepare. Dr. Green helped the volunteers create the most powerful paradox stories they could, stories that folded back on themselves in impossible ways, characters who were both dead and alive, plots that contradicted themselves but still made sense somehow. The Zith prepared their fastest ship and disguised it to look damaged as if it had barely escaped from a battle. They created a false message that would tell the harvesters they were surrendering humans with exceptional creative abilities. The morning of the 3rd day they were ready. The 20 volunteers gathered in the launch bay. General Adams addressed them one last time. What you're doing is incredibly brave. If this works, you'll save not just Earth, but the creative spirit of humanity. Good luck. Jack looked at his friends as they boarded the ship. They were scared, but determined. As the ship left the moon base and headed toward Earth, they went over the plan one more time. Remember, Dr. Green told them, once we're inside the Thought Collector, we need to get to their central processing unit. That's where we'll upload our paradox stories. And what if the plan doesn't work? Kelly asked quietly. Nexor's skin turned a gentle blue. Then the galaxy loses its most precious treasure, the human ability to imagine new worlds and possibilities. The journey to Earth took 18 hours. As they approached, they saw dozens of harvester ships in orbit around the planet. And in the center was the Thought Collector, a massive black ship that looked like a giant dark star. It's time, Zenith said. I'm sending the surrender message. They held their breath, waiting for a response. Minutes ticked by. Then their communication system lit up. They've accepted, Zenith said. They're allowing us to dock. The Zith ship approached the massive harvester vessel. As they got closer, they could see it was unlike the other ships. Its surface seemed to shift and change, as if it couldn't decide on a final form. That's what happens when you collect too many different ideas but can't create your own, Nexor explained. They have millions of stories but no way to make them fit together. The ship docked with a gentle bump. Guards were waiting for them, tall beings with skin like black glass and eyes that glowed with an empty light. Remember the plan, Jack whispered as the doors opened. Act like you're defeated. The 20 volunteers were led through long corridors that seemed to change as they walked. Sometimes the walls looked like metal, sometimes like stone, sometimes like something organic. It was as if the ship itself couldn't decide what it was. Finally, they reached a vast central chamber. In the middle was what looked like a throne, and on it sat the Harvester leader. Unlike the others, this being was small and ancient-looking, with skin that had faded to gray and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. "Welcome, humans," it said in a voice that somehow entered their minds directly. "You have brought us a precious gift yourselves. Your creativity will feed our people for many years." Jack stepped forward, pretending to be afraid but resigned. "We ask only one thing before you take our stories. Let us tell you one last tale, together." The leader tilted its head, curious. "A final story? Very well. Begin." Jack nodded to his friends, and together they started to tell the most complex paradox story they had created. A tale that began at its own ending, that contained worlds, within worlds that made sense and nonsense at the same time. As they spoke, the walls of the chamber began to flicker. The leader's eyes widened in alarm. "What is this?" it demanded. "This is not a proper story." But they continued, their voices growing stronger as they wove their impossible tale. The other harvesters in the room began to twitch and move erratically. Alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Stop," the leader commanded, rising from its throne. "You are damaging our collection systems." "This is human creativity," Jack said, his voice firm. "Not just the stories we tell, but how we tell them. Not just what we imagine, but how we imagine it." The chamber's lights flickered and died, then came back on. The leader had fallen back onto its throne, its face showing something the humans had never expected to see. Wonder. "I remember," it whispered. "Long ago, before we became harvesters, we too could create like this." The ship shuddered around. Them. Nexor touched Jack's arm. "The paradox is spreading through their system," he said urgently. "We need to leave, now." As they ran back to their ship, the thought collector was changing. The corridor stabilized, choosing single forms instead of shifting constantly. The guards stood confused, no longer trying to stop them. They made it back to their ship and undocked quickly. As they pulled away, they watched the thought collector pulse with light, not the empty darkness from before, but colors that shifted and changed in patterns that seemed almost creative. "What's happening to them?" Maria asked as they sped away. "I think," Nexor said slowly, his skin turning a thoughtful purple, "they are remembering how to imagine for themselves." 3 days later, they returned to the moon base with amazing news. The harvester ships were leaving Earth, the collection centers were shutting down, and the thought collector had sent a message to all humans. "We thank you for the gift of remembering. We will no longer take what is not freely given. The galaxy needs your stories, but more importantly, it needs your way of creating them. We hope one day to share tales with you, not as takers but as fellow creators." General Adams smiled as she read the message aloud to everyone at the base. "It seems that humans don't just hold the galaxy's most precious treasures," she said. "We also know how to share them in a way that makes everyone richer." Jack looked at his friends and the Zith who had become their allies. "So what happens now?"